You guys already know the drill. Grab your coffee, your drink, your snack, because today I am going to tell you guys how to get into filmmaking when you have no idea where to start and no money. So cheers to that. For those of you who have never seen my face before, my name is Mia and I am an NYU film student at Tisch. I am going to be a junior this fall, and I have been making short films since I was probably 10 years old. For the last 2 years of high school, I went to a magnet art school that I auditioned for, and I went for filmmaking, and obviously that's what a lot of my YouTube videos are about. But one of the biggest questions I am always getting asked is how to start getting into film and how to prepare for applying for college for film and a film portfolio when you don't go to school for that and you've never had any formal training or experience with that, and just not really knowing where to start, and also not having thousands of dollars worth of equipment, because that's just totally not necessary. So we have a lot to unpack here, but let's get into it. This is probably the biggest piece of advice you'll read about from big time filmmakers or most people, but the first thing I would say to get into filmmaking when you're starting from square one is to just start making films. And I know that can be really annoying to hear because you're like, well, where do I start? And bestie, that's what I'm here for. The first thing I wanted to say is you can start making films just using your phone or an iPad or a point and shoot old camera. There's so many different ways you can make it. You don't have to have really expensive equipment, or you don't have to go out and buy a real camera to start making short films. I would say just embrace the camera and the equipment that you have, maybe tie that into the story that you're gonna make. But overall, the story and the way you're telling the story is way more important than if we're watching it in 4K. Like, trust me. Sit down, write a quick short script, even if it's just 1 to 2 pages. Making something will get your creative juices flowing, and if you're consistently making films, not only will the idea come to you more naturally, but they'll start to get better, and you'll see your films obviously progress over time, just as like anything that you would do, even like sports for example. The more you practice, the better you're gonna get. And another big thing I wanted to talk about, which a lot of my professors talked about freshman year at NYU, even sophomore year, is don't get held up on what your style might be. You're gonna grow into your creative style when you're making films. It's just gonna start to show naturally, like the more and more you make them, and you'll start to see the little similarities between each of them, even if you didn't know that was like your thing. Don't try and force a style on yourself or your films in the beginning. It's gonna distract you from the storytelling that you're trying to make, and then also probably your ability to just totally immerse yourself and have fun making the film. Starting out, I would say make films about characters, genres, places that you're already interested in, and your style will come naturally to you on your own. I think just really just starting and making stuff and not worrying about being a perfectionist is going to be the first thing to actually get you going. That's probably my golden piece of advice. But second, for those of you who've watched some of my vlogs, you probably have heard me talk about this before, but I love a good film book because I think it's a great way to educate yourself and to learn more about filmmaking, or if you have a favorite filmmaker or cinematographer, sometimes they'll have their own books so you can read and learn about their journey. So whether or not if it's more of a tutorial book on how to edit, or it's about some famous director's journey from when they were a young teenager or something to how they became a big success, or even if it's just some like film history, I think there's always something to learn about that, and going that extra mile to take time to read film books. If not educational, definitely inspiring, and hopefully that'll make you want to make more. So I'm going to show you some of my favorite film books really quick. So a lot of these I still have to read. Some of them I have read, but either way, there's definitely a variety here so you can get an idea. One of the biggest ones, this has also been recommended by professors too, but I read it a while ago. This is Making Movies by Sidney Lumet. This is a really great one just for starting out. If you're really new and you want like an overall thing, because Sidney Lumet is a very famous director. As a really famous director, he goes through the different departments working through a feature film, and he starts from like pre-production all the way to post-production, which is really cool. And this one's really fun because he even talks about the different type of personas with what time the writers show up and the actors on the first day of filming, and it's really, really cool, especially if you've seen some of his films. He talks about that. Also, we had to watch this freshman year too. It ended up being way better than I thought it would be. Check out A Dog Day Afternoon. It's a great film, and I think he talks about it in this too. So this one's like, it's not a super hard read either. So I think this is a really good, well-rounded one to start off with. If you have a favorite director or a filmmaker, then see if they have any books. Tim Burton is my favorite director, so I have read some of his stuff, like this one. This is called Burton on Burton. This one's fun too, just in general, because it kind of goes through the spectrum of his career, the timeline of it, but except through his films. You learn a lot of cool stuff, especially about his relationships with the people he's worked with, professional relationships, relationships and his time at Cal Arts in college and then being picked up by Disney and leaving Disney and all this cool stuff. So this was really fun. If you're interested in directing, this one was such a fast read. I really enjoyed it. It's by David Mamet. I think he was a professor at Columbia for filmmaking. Sometimes the book will cut into dialogue almost from his lectures between him and his students, which I found really compelling. This one is also literally so short. It's a little baby book. You could finish this in a day. Honestly, see if a library has it. I haven't gotten to read this one, but I got it before I went to college. But then my first sound class at NYU, my professor recommended this to us. So it's called In the Blink of an Eye, and it's supposed to be a really great book on editing and editing tools and how to edit and different motivations with editing and getting different feelings and moods across, all that good stuff. There's a couple different editions of this, but I have the Master Shot second edition, and this is just like a lot of different shot ideas and great stuff if you want to do cinematography. Planning on reading this one this year. This is the Pixar Touch. It's just about the history and the making of Pixar. I don't know what happened to this book. It got kind of wrecked. I do animation too, so I have Disney's Art of Animation. This is supposed to be one of the really great books for the foundations of animation. This one I got for Christmas. This is about Quentin Tarantino. I've seen this book around. I haven't read it yet, but this one is about his life. This one I picked at Academy Museum. This is called This Is How You Make a Movie, and this one is actually about a bunch of different directors and filmmakers. You can see all of them here. I was gifted this one from my best friend's mom. This is Reframing Todd Haynes and Feminism's Indelible Mark. She was friends with the woman who wrote this, so feminism and filmmaking. I have a lot to read. The problem is I get really excited about these books, but I don't keep up with them as good as I should. We're getting through them slowly. This was also gifted to me, Scorsese on Scorsese, so Martin Scorsese book, this autobiography too, which has been really highly rated. But also, I just wanted to say, like, a lot of these books that I have, I found these on my own before going to film school just by researching, kind of probably why you're watching this video, but just I was looking for different books to get into filmmaking, and there are different websites that have like a list of the best ones, so you can specify it too if you want to go into directing or editing or sound or lighting or something. And then aside from books, this might seem obvious, but I definitely don't even do this as much as I should. Watching movies is such an important way to get into filmmaking because just being exposed to the medium is really great. The more you watch it too, the more you should start to get ideas of things you want to try out or things you want to do. You can even like steal ideas as well. Watching certain films, you might get ideas of different shots you want to try out or transitions, get you thinking about why a director chose to do this or why something worked so well with the writing, and it'll just kind of send you down like a little good spiral about researching it all. Also, another good way if you really want to work on reflecting on the films and forcing yourself to reflect, obviously in film school a lot of times you'll watch a movie and the professors will talk to you a lot about what worked and why, and you'll have to really identify different things or different camera movements. A way you could get into that, especially if you want to hold yourself accountable, is using Letterboxd. It's like a movie reviewing app, which is really fun. So you can log all the movies that you watch, you can rate them, you can write reviews, you can see other people's reviews. It's really fun, especially if you get your friends on it too, then you can just kind of see what your friends are watching. I have a Letterboxd, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like writing reviews. I just like to log them and keep track. I do little like watch lists too, and I can add films to my watch list, so you can follow if you want, but don't get your hopes up. I'm really not taking it too seriously, but it's still a really fun platform to even, like, if anything, learn about new movies to watch, especially indie films. After you made your first short film, when it comes to editing, there are so many free editing apps. When I first started editing and making short films, I used iMovie, which was free on my laptop, but there are like so many different platforms you can use on a phone or a tablet. Even like CapCut, which is the really big TikTok thing right now. I've been using that recently for several of my like day in the lives on TikTok, but it's been super easy and super great, and as far as I know, it's free. There are definitely things you can find. When I edit my YouTube videos or stuff at school, we use like, I get Adobe from NYU for free, and then I bought Final Cut Pro like years back, which was a one-time payment at the time, which is great because I use it multiple times a week. If there's like a specific section of film you want to learn more about, besides the books and watching movies, you can also educate yourself through YouTube tutorials and blogs. There are so many people who have written like really specific tutorials for things online. Definitely take advantage of that. I was very lucky that I did get to go to a magnet art school during my last 2 years of high school, but I can definitely say that most of the lectures we had in those classes, I'm like almost positive you could probably self-teach yourself through online tutorials. It just depends on whether or not you're willing to do the research and put in the time, but it's definitely possible. In terms of writing screenplays, Celtics or Celtics, I don't know. I said it Celtics recently in my last screenwriting class, and then everyone said it differently. So that was the first program that I was introduced to in high school. They have a free plan. There's definitely like a lot of other plans that you pay for, so you only get a limited amount of screenplays to write in it. But if anything, it already has a screenplay format built in, so you can just learn how a screenplay is supposed to be structured. It's super easy, and then you can see how to like format the script and the different ways it should be written. I also just learned that First Draft is a screenwriting program that might be more industry standard. Apparently they have, I don't know if it's just NYU or like all students, they have a discount for that, and that's kind of like Final Cut Pro where it's a one-time purchase thing. So I am gonna purchase that soon. I'll let you know how that is. Just like watching movies, reading scripts is a fantastic way to get used to the structure of screenwriting, but also to understand the story structure as well. The more you read, the more naturally the rhythm of the storytelling and like the different beats are gonna start to come to you, and you'll be able to identify them more even as you start to watch movies. You'll kind of be able to predict like what's gonna happen or where you're at in the movie, and you're gonna realize like to some extent every movie has really similar movie beats and story beats, which you can also use in your own writing. There are so many famous templates online of different story beats, like Blake Snyder's Save the Cat is a really popular one, but there are lots of other different ones too. This is more for like a feature film idea, or you can look up some of your favorite feature films and see if they've been broken down by someone else into that structure. And then after you've made a film, you don't need to post everything, but definitely don't be afraid to share your work with your friends or family online, because like after all, at the end of the day, filmmaking and the film industry creates for an audience. So learning how people react to your work can be beneficial, so you can understand like what's working and what's not working. And if you have anyone you trust who can give you constructive criticism, that is always a great thing. It can definitely be hard to hear, especially because making a film, you put so much work and time and love into it. To hear someone not like certain things is definitely hard, but especially too if you want to keep moving forward or go into film school or something, it's a great thing to get used to, is hearing constructive criticism and learning from it and being able to accept it. I will say though, for music, if you're posting online, try and use copyright-free music or royalty-free music. You can search online for it, or YouTube Studio has some music that you can download. Obviously read, some have certain guidelines where they want you to put like a certain credit at the end of the film, or they have certain restrictions on where you can post, but it's best to steer clear from the copyrighted music if you want to post online, because you don't want it taken down, even though it's hard because you want like your favorite songs to be in it. And if you want to change up the look of your film as well, but you don't want to splurge, a lot of things I started to do when I was in high school and getting into it is you can look on Amazon and just look up like LED lights or get a reflector or something, just simple things to add some color or light to it that are usually pretty cheap. You can go to the dollar store and find props. You can use stuff at home, like you can thrift costumes, so many different things. You just have to get creative. In terms of applying to colleges and not having anything for a creative resume, I think it's totally okay, because colleges have to understand that like it's just not possible for everyone to have had the same opportunities growing up to apply. So I think most importantly, they're looking for your ability to tell a really good story. So that goes back to why you don't need expensive equipment to get into film school. You can get into film school on a short film you made on your iPhone, but above all, just keep practicing. I think that's the biggest thing, and it's totally doable to start making short films now. If you ever want to submit anything to film festivals, it gets a little pricey like the more you do it, which I don't love, but Film Freeway is the place to submit to film festivals. So you can make an account on there and go put up your short films. If that's something you want to do, you can submit to little local short film competitions too, which could be a fun way to meet people. Hopefully this was helpful. I have been meaning to make this video for so long, but for those of you who are looking into film school and have had no experience yet, do not freak out, don't stress out. It's totally possible and you can do it, and you will do that. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.